Limoncello is the symbolic Italian liqueur known all over the world. You can serve it after meals as a digestif, but also to accompany desserts, and people are now using it in cocktails. The term limoncello derives from a term of endearment for the word lemon. In 1691, they used the word limoncello to mean the cedar water. Limoncello happens to be the second most popular liqueur in Italy after Campari. So what are the origins of limoncello? There exist three main versions to explain its origins. Some people from Sorrento say it was invented in their region a while ago, and the nobles used to offer some of it to their guests. On another hand, people from Amalfi say it was invented in ancient times, and farmers and fishermen used to drink it in the morning to fight the cold weather, already at the time of the Arabic invasion. However, the most popular story states that limoncello was created at the beginning of the 20th century by Maria Antonia Ferrasi. The woman was the owner of a small hotel in Capri and had the garden full of lemons and oranges that she used to make limoncello to offer her guests. Her son, Massimo Canali, registered the brand in 1988. The certification authority states that the term limoncello can be used only for liqueurs produced with the PGI, Protected Geographical Indication, lemons from Sorrento area. These are cultivated following specific traditional techniques. The lemon trees are grown under long straight poles of chestnut trees in order to protect them from the cold, and the lemons are picked up between February and October. Thanks to Eat and Walk Italy and In Rome Cooking for this information about limoncello. Cheers! Hello, ladies and gentlemen, craft spirit enthusiasts, and those interested in the intoxicating world of craft distilleries, cideries, meaderies, wineries, and the occasional foray into breweries. It's Rich Shane, and welcome to Fermented Adventure, the podcast, where we bring you the fascinating people that are making the mash, fermenting, distilling, bottling, pouring, and delivering to you some of the finest libations in the world. Before we get started, here are a few housekeeping items. Thank you for bringing the podcast into wherever you are and whatever you're doing. We truly are grateful that you have chosen to listen and make us part of your day. It would mean the world to us if you left a 5-star review. This helps us climb in the rankings, and it makes it easier for others to find us. Don't hesitate to leave us your comments as well. If the podcast didn't meet your expectations, tell us why. We're always striving to improve. You can find us at fermentedadventure.com. We are on Instagram and Facebook as Fermented Adventure. Email us at fermentedadventure@gmail.com. All right, FA Nation, let's meet our guests. He's Alessandro Ercolano. I'm Rich Shane. This is Fermented Adventure, the podcast. Alessandro, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Rich. How are you?
I'm fabulous. I'm excited. We met at Bar Convent, Brooklyn. You have a wonderful array of spirits that you're bringing to market with Originals Imports. What is Originals Imports, Alessandro?
Well, thank you. Originals Imports, it's a small company that I founded a few years ago. It's the way I described it's a small house of craft Italian spirits. So I really love small productions from South Italy. That's where I come from. So I take my trips down to the south of Italy, try to find small producers, mostly family owned, grow their own ingredients, type of producers. And so we bring them to the US.
Where did that all start for you? This desire, this excitement, this enthusiasm for spirits, especially these craft that you speak about?
Well, so that's as it always goes. It's a long, long story, and I'll try to make it somewhat manageable. But in Italy, we have a different approach with alcohol. Now that I've been in the US for a little bit, I can definitely see some differences. And in all honesty, I've enjoyed liqueurs with my father since I was very young. One of the ways that we actually are, we get introduced to liqueurs is as a treat on ice cream. Often you have like, lemon liqueur like limoncello or an amaro. And, when you're a little guy, your parents might put a little bit of it on your ice cream on as in your Sundays up on your Sunday meal. And that's been really my first exposure. And from then it's just been a long passion for liqueurs. I have to say, most of my life, it's been just those things that, you like, and you tend to pay attention to, but it's not forefront in your day-to-day life. And then, so I eventually I became an engineer. I started working for a large American corporation. That's how I came to the US. And, at some point I started realizing that the world I was living in wasn't really where I wanted to be or where I felt I was a good fit. And even though it was a wonderful experience, I've traveled the world, I've done a lot of interesting things, I just realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do. And the spirits team came back, gradually in my life, in a stronger and stronger way. And so I started having these thoughts of perhaps changing career and working with small craft spirits. And really, there were two factors that led me to actually do this. One, I'm a huge limoncello lover. I'm from Sorrento, the Amalfi Coast. That's where limoncello originally comes from. I've always enjoyed good limoncello at the end of a meal. And I was feeling a little frustrated of what I was finding in the marketplace, at least commonly available, the options there. And then the other piece, which might be a bit a bit deeper. I was living a life that I really didn't feel was my life. And so I felt like I was putting a bit of a mask on every day, going to work and doing the things I was doing. And I wasn't really being myself. And when my first son was born, it kind of came to me that, if I teach my son on wearing a mask every day, then maybe he's not going to be happy in his life. And so if I have to show him how to be truly yourself, then I have to be the one that first has to do that. And in all honesty, it was a good time in my life to change completely career orientation. And so that's when I decided, what, then I'm going to do what I want to do, and started Originals.
You speak to being a child and the experience of, hey, little limoncello, little amaro on some ice cream. Mindset wise, it's different. Alcohol is considered more of an everyday but a celebratory thing, right? It's a little bit, it's a little taste. And I'm curious with you, Alessandro, where did the idea, obviously, of changing directions in your life, but saying the spirits side of things is where you feel comfortable, where that you're not wearing a mask. This is who you are. Going from an engineer and deciding this is where you were going to land, what particular skill sets or what was it that excited for you about going this direction?
Well, so that's a great question. And sometimes, you think about yourself when you have one thought, then maybe you think, one other day you have a different thought. But in reality, where I started feeling that this was something that not only I enjoyed, but I might have a good foundation for, is really when I started sharing my taste preferences with my crowd. And you go into something you have no idea of, so you really latch on just one or two fundamental thoughts. And one of the fundamental thoughts that I had is that I think I have a better sense of taste for this kind of spirits than most people out there. And at the beginning it was an hypothesis, but then when I really put my efforts into it and found our limoncello, which has been our first product, and then I start sharing it with a number of potential customers, even before I had even started my company. It became clear to me that people were responding very positively to my tastes profile, and that kind of like really gave me the green light. Okay, then I'm onto something, and I have a good basis to start from. I'm not just navigating in the dark, and that is something that has grown more and more. And as you know, as you are the smallest fish in the pond, as I am, which I still am, it has given me a lot of confidence, because as we have grown from one product to now 7. There is one thing that is common to all of my products, is I take a tremendous amount of time in selecting them and refining the recipes to what I like. I always say I am not a salesperson. I'm just sharing what I like, and the clientele that I have cultivated over the years now, the response to my selections is always very, very positive. And so that has, again, given me more and more confidence that from where I started from to keep doing what I'm doing.
You spoke about the limoncello being that first expression that you brought on to Originals Imports. The relationships, the introductions, how did that come about for you?
Well, so in terms of production and going about that side of the equation is, yeah.
Well, you're coming from Connecticut, and
Right.
you're going back to your roots in Italy.
Right.
And they're seeing you, Alessandro, and you're excited, and you want to bring these wonderful small craft producers to market.
Right.
How did those relationships come about? Or was it family connections that were already there? Did you start with some sort of correspondence program? How did you get involved, or how did you get introduced to some of these producers?
Right. So that's a good question, and there are some funny stories there. So yeah, so I had a selection in my head already of some of the local brands from my hometown that I thought had really good potential, and so I started contacting a couple of them, not more than a couple, maybe two, maybe three. I'd say probably two. And it often goes that one might respond, one did not respond, and that's how it went. I don't think I got any response back from one of those, but one of them did reply and did, and I still am surprised today how things worked out, because I had no experience in the industry, and I had absolutely zero background, zero credentials, let's just put it that way. And for a producer to start working and exporting with somebody like me, it's a little bit of pretty much a shot in the dark, because I can put myself in their shoes and say, oh, who is this guy? Is he ever going to be able to sell anything? What distribution is he going to have? Is he going to pay his bills? Things like that. But I was very, very frank with this producer, and I said, look, I am from the town. I'm a huge fan of limoncello. I want to bring authentic limoncello to the US, craft producer type of limoncello. I believe you have something really unique. And I think if that's okay with you, we can work together and understand that this is a completely new endeavor for me. It's going to be a learning curve for both of us. But if things go well, we can probably, start and grow a very nice small business focused on something that we both love. And the response from this producer was actually very positive. Again, it was a family-owned production, very small. They said, no, we'd love the idea to work with somebody local. So things started that way. It turned out, as funny as it is, that this producer, I didn't even know where they produced. I knew that they were local. They had their own little production in the same street where my mom used to live, which was mind-boggling. And so that at the end of the day, there was a connection there. But it turns out that the actual guy that was making it was my second-degree cousin. And it was totally unknown to me until actually further along in the relationship that this came out, because of then once we got more involved, there were more conversations going. But it's really funny how things worked out, and so that's how it worked. And also for my second producer, I was very upfront with them. I said, look, I'm just getting started, but I want to work with small producers. They're willing to grow with me. and the reception was very positive, and yet and those relationships are still very much alive and great. I mean, it's been actually, it's been challenging at times, but really good overall. Very happy about it.
You talk about discovering family on the same street as where, family is. And, I wonder part of the conversation where they come to you and they say, Alessandro, this sounds great, but we only produce this little batch, and we sell it to the locals, or we sell it to the tourists, or, we sell it to the local spots in town. And sometimes people will pick up a bottle. How does the conversation go to say, you're going to need to make more and also keep that flavor profile, that consistency that you say, I love this and I want to bring this version to the masses?
Well, so those are very difficult conversations to have, not because of lack of participation, but from both parties, but because they're just difficult problems to solve. One of the first, so I should say, first of all, that yet today, our batches are super small. I mean, we bring our products are made in 500-600 bottles batches. So they're microscopic. But one of the first question I ask when work with the producers, try to get an overall sense of their capacity, how much they can produce. And that's just to try to get ahead of, eventual bottlenecks. We did get to a point at some point where we were hitting some bottlenecks, and the conversation has been tough for years because preserving the quality is paramount and is very difficult. The second you start changing one variable in the equation, things start getting different. And I am, for lack of a better word, I'm very picky about having a certain level of quality. We had this situation with two producers, and with one producer, which was the first limoncello producer, the conversation was, okay, how to expand. They had a very small shop. It was one person only doing, and we tried to explore multiple options, but eventually we actually had to move production somewhere else, to a bigger location. And that took a tremendous amount of work, and trial and error. But we were able to do that. And also with our second producer, they were able to move production from one location to the other. And that, with the second producer specifically, that allowed just for a bigger space and therefore keeping more material, but keeping the batches the same size, which is something I'm very adamant of. Even though when we expand, we don't necessarily make our batches bigger, we just make them more often. And to make them more often, you often need more space to just keep more inventory of, material, bottles, and all the things that you need to have more of that cadence. So very, very hard conversations, multiple times, having to ship samples from the US back to Italy, or me traveling to Italy, trying things, coming back, and eventually, getting it right.
Pardon the interruption. Thank you so much for listening to Fermented Adventure, the podcast. Could you do us a favor? Hit that follow button. It makes it easier for others to find us, and it helps us climb in the rankings. Take a screenshot of the podcast, post it, tag us, and let everyone know that you listen to the Fermented Adventure podcast. Now, back to our podcast. You've teased limoncello several times. This is your first expression that you brought to market. Tereo, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yep, Tereo, either.
All right, either way. Now, this is Tereo limoncello. I opened this while we were having our conversation, and this wonderful bouquet of lemons just filled this space that I'm in. One of the things that I'm excited about when I see a product like this is I can't get lemons like this at my produce stand around the corner where I live. They're going to be so unique to the location to where this is produced, then I'm excited that I can just try these lemons in this form, and I can be, let's say, transported back to Italy. And that's like, there's a romance and fun to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest components of what I wanted to do, is have people get that little window into a different location, different background, different culture. And the way we do that is through the main ingredient. So most of our spirits, the main ingredient is something that is indigenous of the region. So our limoncello is made with Amalfi lemon. These are only Amalfi grown lemons. They are protected lemons, actually, the PGI. They are very unique for limoncello. They have a very high concentration of essential oil in the peel. So when you infuse that in the alcohol, it gives it just such a bright lemon flavor. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, that's the main point of it. It's the ingredient.
The nose on this is not heavy, sugary, syrupy. It's a light, oily lemon there's an acidity and a brightness on the nose, which I wonder if that's your experience coming through, that when you are trying these limoncellos in the United States, it's all right, I took some lemons and I macerated them, or I immersed them into a neutral grain spirit, dumped a whole bunch of sugar on there, and we have limoncello. This is something that, when you talk about being handcrafted, and you're talking about one person making it, I'm just imagining the care of selecting the lemons, or going through and how they treat each lemon more purposefully, and with more of a desire to deliver this spirit to market.
Yeah. Very much so. So, one of the things I would like to add to this is that, so everything we make comes from different producers. I mean, we have a handful, less than a handful, but they're not everything is made by one producer. And the reason is very specific. You need to have somebody to make that product that has been tasting that one ingredient since that person was a child. I mean, that person needs to know what a lemon tastes like to be able to make a lemon liqueur that tastes like actual lemon. So, these people that are making our limoncello now, the person that does it and his family, they have been in the lemon business, growing lemons actually for multiple generations. They will know exactly what a lemon tastes like. And if that limoncello doesn't taste like it, they're going to go back and change it. I often say this because a lot of people make limoncello at home, which is great. I love the idea. Nothing against it. Actually, my family used to make it, a lot of people should do it. But it's like making coffee, A lot of people make coffee at home. How many people really make coffee like the barista down the street? You just need to know how you're doing it, and how, you need to select ingredients in the right way. I'll tell you this, that not many people realize it, but when you have a small batch, especially batches the size of our spirits, that batch of ingredient that you get in that one specific situation will greatly affect the final product. So if you're getting lemons that have been harvested by more at the sea level, they're going to have one different nuance than the other lemons. If you pick the lemons that have more at the higher elevation, they're going to have a different nuance in terms of flavor. These people are really tuned into that. They know how to handle that. And that's where the art comes in. It really is easy to make limoncello at home, but to make it well done, it's just very, very difficult. And often enough, it's just an art that you can't even explain. People just know how to do it. They have their senses going, and that's how they adjust the recipe. It's just remarkable.
I think you hit on it perfectly, that, yeah, I can make a cup of coffee here, but my barista makes his coffee unlike anything I've had, and I can't reproduce that. This limoncello, again, the flavor is so layered. You do get sweetness, but I feel like you're getting the sweetness from the lemon. You're getting the oils from the peel. You're getting this acidity to it but it comes through so balanced. And then this lingering bouquet that just rests in the back of your mouth. That is just it's so wonderful that I almost want to be transported to that Italian meal where I've got a nice stuffed belly and I'm just relaxing. And, is it Nona that's going around pouring the limoncello? Is that how it would work? I don't know. But who does it in your family? It's you, isn't it?
Well, now it's me. Now it's me. But you hit a word that has a lot of weight in my selection process, which is balance. Everything I taste has to be balanced. And when I say balanced, and by the way, open close parenthesis real quick, I don't have a sommelier background. So, sometimes my terminology is just made up by me. I just go by taste. Let's close that parenthesis. But I often felt that with a number of spirits out there, you taste something which might be the main ingredient of that specific flavor, and then you taste the alcohol. And the two are there together, but you're not hand in hand. Like you taste the two in the same cup, but they're not together. And that to me is the balance, the lack of balance. Every time I look for a spirit, one of my main selection criteria has to be that the alcohol and the flavor of that specific spirit, they should come in together. You don't feel one and the other. You can't really distinguish the alcohol and the flavor. They just need to come together. And so as the heat of the alcohol comes in, it should progress at the same way as the flavor that you're tasting and go away at the same time. That is something I found that very few producers are able to hit. In all honesty, some of them, they don't even know how to explain how they do that, but they do it. But yet it's a quality that I think makes any spirit just so much more approachable and delightful. And that's I appreciate you picking that up on our limoncello.
You talk about this idea that you had to bring these craft spirits to other areas, the United States. What's been the reception and the process to help get these into stores and bars and places where people can try and enjoy these?
Well, so for the people that know the life of a distributor, which is the way I act here in the US. I'm acting as a distributor. I bring these liqueurs in the US, and then I'm bringing them to other distributors in other states at the same time, to wine and spirit stores, bars, restaurants, especially in New York and New Jersey. That life is a bit of a grind, right? It's a lot of trying, knocking at doors, trying to connect with people. For me, it was even more difficult because I didn't know anybody in the industry. I never worked in this industry one day in my life. So when I got my first bottle of limoncello, I basically just started going store to store and like introducing myself, like, hey, I know you don't know me. This is a new company, but we're trying to do this. And I will say this. The reception, at first is always the same. We don't need another limoncello. We're good. We don't need anything. But then the people that are actually trying, then they love it. And they realize, wait a minute, this is a different level. We never tried anything like that. And then in that, once I get people to try, then the response is always positive. And I should say this, that even as of today, most of my customers have become almost friends. Everybody is very happy and always interested in what I'm bringing. They always ask me, what are you bringing next? What's coming? So yeah, the reception at first is always a little cold and dismissive. But then once I'm able to break just the initial barrier, then people are always very happy to try more and bring my products in and build a relationship.
Brezio bitter?
Right? Brezio, I call it Brezio. Yep.
This is really interesting.
Uh-huh.
As you talk about your introduction to the craft limoncello producer, talk about your introduction to this spirit.
Yeah. So yeah, our Brezio bitter, it's a bitter liqueur. It's It's a category that is becoming more and more popular in the US. There is one huge brand out there, which I'm not going to name, that is colored red. And it's the main ingredient you would use in your Negroni in addition to your gin and your red sweet vermouth. I love Negronis and I love bitter liqueur. So I could not have one bitter liqueur in my portfolio. I wanted to have a bitter that is your everyday bitter that you can put in your cocktails. You can even have it just straight, maybe with a little soda and a slice of orange. And I wanted it to be natural. And so our bitter, you will notice right off the bat, it's of an amber color. It's not colored red, as traditional Italian bitters are colored. And that's just the natural color of the ingredients. I was very adamant again on not having any colorants whatsoever, even if natural colorants. I don't want to have those in my spirits. And so we were able to craft with our producer this very nice, very smooth, approachable bitter that, in my opinion, again, is totally your everyday bitter, natural, small craft. And I'm very happy with it.
What you've created here, was this the original iteration, or did you work with that spirit producer and say, add some of this, take away some of that, bring this to this point? Or was this something that you walked in and said, that's exactly what I've been looking for?
So this specific one, I think was exactly what I was looking for at the first iteration. That doesn't happen often because I often have to come in and say, okay, let's change this, let's change that a little bit. But for this specific one, I was very happy right off the bat, and so we didn't touch it one bit. The only thing that we did was a couple of iterations around having it. The producer wanted to make it colored because they felt strongly that's how Italian bitters should be by tradition. They are red. And so we had a couple of iterations on red, not red, but eventually, that we decided not to have any colorants. But yeah, for that specific one, I was very happy that we were able to hit that mark right off the bat.
Citrus, orange, there's spiciness to this. There's the root component to this. What lingers, again, the same thing as that limoncello, there's this bouquet of bitterness. And there's also a dryness on the palate, a little less alcohol by volume on this. One of the things that I really appreciate is you do the QR code on the back and you say, hey, take a picture of the QR code thing, and so you can go to see what cocktails that these would match well with. And what stands out for me is that, when you start to think about that bitter component, like you mentioned in Negroni, sometimes I think it's almost like I like things bitter. I like bold flavors. And I think this is going to stand up well because of the way this is formulated. It's not going to get watered down. It's not going to get taken over by the other alcohol components that you're bringing to that cocktail.
Very much so. Yep. I just feel like, we were very lucky to hit that just right balance of flavor and bitterness. And, like you, I love bitterness. I think it adds depth to pretty much everything you add them on. And I felt a little conflicted when we were looking for this specific spirit, because the category of bitter, the broader Italian bitter category, where I'm lumping Amaro in there as well. They tend to be either really sweet, and I'm talking about the commercial ones. They tend to be either really sweet, or you have a few options that are really bitter in almost a non-approachable way by the average person. So I wanted to have something that the average person can appreciate as a bitter, and can be introduced to it. And often in times when we taste this bitter to the public, a lot of people will come and say, oh, I don't like bitter. It's not something I do. And then I challenge them. I'll let them try. And a good amount of those people will turn around and say, wait a minute, this is very pleasant. And that's exactly what I was trying to do, trying to find that right balance to bridge between the people that like bitter, but also make it approachable for people that don't like bitter. And that's why our bitter, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many of the people that have tasted it, you can just drink it straight. I mean, you don't need to add anything. You can just have it on its own. And it's delicious. I think it's delicious.
I think it's delicious too. To that very point, if you can't drink it straight, you can't appreciate it. Not everybody's going to like that, but you got to start somewhere. The taste straight, if it's got that full balance of flavor, yeah, start adding a little bit of soda water to it, or a little bit of ice, or a little bit of other citrus. You're going to get it's like when you buy some paint, right? And you put it on the wall and you say, all right, now I can see what it's going to look like in that room with that color, with that sheen. That's exactly what I want. But you can play with it now and maybe do some different things with it. This is wonderful. I'm just starting to think, cocktails and how can I introduce maybe a rye whiskey to this?
Yes.
Different other components. You're laughing. Yeah. Why?
Well, because it's often a conversation of, how it goes with rye, and I'm still experimenting myself. So I'm in that process myself, But you'll be surprised, and one way of using it, which blew my mind, and I wasn't even going for it, but it just happened to be. And I learned this from TikTok. I'll be, I'm not ashamed of it. But you take a bitter liqueur and you infuse it with ground coffee. And I had never done it, and now I've done it several times. And I will tell you that. So I've been looking for a coffee liqueur to add to my portfolio for quite some time. I will be very honest with you. I've yet to find one that is good. Either the coffee is a little burned, or it's too sweet, or just it's a little watery. They just never strike the right balance, in my opinion, for my taste. Again, you take 1 cup of bitter liqueur, our bitter liqueur, you infuse it with a tablespoon of ground coffee, and just for 4 minutes, and then you strain it. It is the most delicious coffee liqueur you'll ever find. Just that bitter component just blends in with the coffee flavor, and you won't taste the two anymore. You'll just taste the new coffee flavor with a lot more body, richer, but yet not heavy. I mean, it was just like, it blew my mind when we first tried it. And so now we have it as one of the recipes that we suggest. But yeah, I mean, an interesting fact about how to use bitter liqueur.
Sounds like a great start to a journey of making some sort of an espresso martini too.
Yeah, very much so. I think definitely a great base. Yeah.
You mentioned 7. We've tried 2. What are the other 5 that you've brought to the United States?
Yeah, so I'm gonna given we're talking about the bitter, I'll talk about the close cousin, which is gin, cousin by Negroni family. But so I really wanted to have a gin. I am of this. I always enjoyed gin, but I'm also on the wagon of this new way of doing gin, where they are a lot more aromatic, perhaps less pungent, a bit softer. And it all started several years ago by having gin and tonic in Spain, where there is a huge gin and tonic culture, and the way they do it is very unique. And so, yeah, I've been in the outlook for a gin. And so finally we found a very unique gin. It's also from South Italy, and it's infused with rosemary, basil, and olive. And I love it because it's 42% ABV. So it's a shade less than some other gins. And the juniper, it's also a shade less than some other gins. And so it almost becomes I almost call it a sipping gin. It's so approachable that you could just sip it on its own. Again, that theme coming back. So that's our gin. It's beautiful for gin and tonic or martinis. It's also called Brezio gin. So that shares the same name as the bitter. Then we have close cousin to the limoncello, we have a bergamot liqueur, which is something I really love. Bergamot is this unique citrus from the southeastern coast of Italy. It really mostly only grows in the southern part of Calabria, by the coast, so right by the Ionian Sea. And it's this green citrus, almost the size of a grapefruit. And it tastes very much like a yellow grapefruit, and almost like a little bit of orange notes in it. But if you break the peel and you are able to smell the oils, it is very floral. It almost reminds me of an elderflower type of flavor. And so the liqueur is very much in that category. It kind of bridges in between an orange liqueur and almost an elderflower liqueur. It's a great, unique liqueur to add a different bend to all the cocktails that would regularly either use orange or elderflower. And so, at the very basic, you add seltzer and lime, and it's this very nice spritzer, which we'll talk about that, I think. And then you can use it in martinis, margaritas. You can use it with gin. It's just a very unique flavor. And that's also, again, a farm to bottle producer. The producer is a gentleman about my age. He grows the bergamot, so it's all handmade, natural, which is nice. And then, as we go on the dark side of things, we already talked about the bitter, but we do have now an Amaro, which is a micro producer from Tuscany. Is made by this lovely woman, but really, really strong-minded and very capable. She's actually becoming quite a celebrity in Italy, because she's really emerging as one of the most successful women in the distilling industry. But we met a few years ago when she was going through the ropes, and we worked together on this Amaro. It's her recipe, and I helped her fine tune it. And the reason why I love the Amaro is because are you familiar with Fernet? I assume you definitely are, right? So in the spectrum of the sweetness, you have a commercial Amaro where you have a certain amount of sugar. They are sweet or very sweet. And then you have Fernet on the other end. Fernet have minimum amount of sugar. They're very bitter. I'm actually, even though I love Amaro, I'm one of those few people that I will struggle to drink Fernet on its own. Even though I can appreciate the flavor, I will just struggle to drink it. So I really wanted to have something that was in between. And so our Amaro is, in that spectrum I was mentioning, is probably a little closer to the Fernet than to a commercial Amaro. So it has a little bit of sweetness that is up front, but then goes away very quickly and leaves you with a lingering, smooth bitterness. And then the other thing I really love is, again, to the opposite of most common Amaros, which are either based on orange or mint. I wanted to have something that wasn't dominantly orangey or minty, and so our Amaro is flavored with a number of spices, but at the same time has peppercorn and ginger. And so all of that bitterness then transition into a light spice, and the ginger and the peppercorn will go hand in hand. You won't feel the two separately. It's just like a richer spice that then smooths, kind of fades away very smoothly. And I love that. Of course, all of them are natural. There are no colorants, no additives. And the last one of the spirits is a category that doesn't get enough love in the US, and I hope one day it will, which is grappa. So we have a beautiful grappa, same distillery from the lady I was mentioning before. That's actually one of our first products. It's distilled from Brunello di Montalcino. It's a delicious expression of grappa, in my opinion. It's aged 3 years in French oak. She buys the pomace, the local pressed grapes, from the local winemaker, so it's a very much of a local effort. She tells me, actually, she didn't tell me. The people that work with her tell me that she has this, and I've seen it. She has this little bed in the distillery where she'll basically sleep at the distillery when she's distilling it, because she wants to make sure that she gets it just right. She's there constantly hearing the bubbling. She wants to know everything is just done right. And so our grappa is delicious. And I hope, one day it will get a bit more recognition in the US, but the people they appreciate it when they taste ours. They really love it. And I love it too. So those are all the spirits. Should we talk about cocktails?
Well, you sent me this Originals and Co. Bergamot, Orange, and Lime Spritzer, which you did speak about a little bit.
Right.
And I believe we had this at Bar Convent, Brooklyn. And my recollection of this is because I really enjoy Bergamot, but passion, great people, own savings. What's that all about?
Well, sometimes my wife tells me I'm too heavy when I do things. I should be a little lighter and have more fun. But so first of all, I love cocktails. I don't drink wine. I mean, I will appreciate maybe one glass of one type of wine, and that's it. I drink cocktails all the time. Even if it's a very basic cocktail, I will have a cocktail. And with the cocktail, with the ready to drink cocktail scene, of course, exploding. I was just as a customer enjoying some of the cocktails out there, and my expectations were not necessarily met. I wasn't really finding what I liked. So I thought, maybe I can start a small batch cocktail. And so we started Originals and Co., which is kind of like a child of Originals. And the idea is to just focus on very few small batch kind of crafty cocktails. And so, our first flavor is bergamot orange, which is the same citrus in the US is often referred as bergamot orange, and lime. It's a very simple spritzer, yet refreshing. It's 10% alcohol, because I am of the belief that you have to have one good cocktail and that's it. I am not of the 4 or 5 halfway done cocktails in a row. I want one well done, up to me if I want to finish it or I'll drink half of it, but I want to taste something good. And so that's the spirit behind it. Good people, savings, that is because I often feel like you buy these cocktails out there and you just don't know what's going on behind it. Is it investors? Is it a group of millionaires that just put their money into it and they just contracted with somebody? And nothing wrong with that. I just, would like to have a better understanding of what's going on. So I thought maybe this sheds a little light that, this is a small business all the way through. I create the recipe. It's funded by myself. There's no banks involved. There's no investors behind. I am the one awake at night sometimes if things are not going as I wish they did. Great people. I have a few people that are wonderful that help me. One of those people is our wonderful designer. She's done all of our bottles, all our packaging, and she's great, very talented and helping me. And so, I just wanted to have a little bit of something out there and tell people this is not your mainstream product. This is a very small effort, just few people behind it.
What I enjoy is when I come across something like this, to your point, there are a lot of mass-produced cocktails in a can or different variations of something, because it's almost like, oh, me too, I've got something. And I don't want to miss out on the financial windfall of, not being a part of what people are doing today. But like everything else we've tried and experienced with you in Originals Imports, flavor, just balance and fun. And I love the way all this comes together. And I actually get this essence of like this oily vanilla aspect to this cocktail. But for me, I love that you said that one cocktail, because for Dawn and I, we love bringing these cocktails, and especially, maybe having one on the beach at the end of our time, just to kind of relax and, just enjoy the moment. And I'm almost mentally transported to that little cafe or that little, bar, the bar somewhere in Italy where I can watch the sunset and just take a few moments to be in the moment, to sip this and say, could life get any better?
Yeah. I think what you said is perfect. And I almost feel like you read my mind. So a lot of people ask me, which one is your favorite? And it's often a question I get asked, but you can't answer that. To me, there's no one favorite. It all depends on the circumstances. See, to me, spirits are almost a reflection of the moment, or a reflection, or the other side of your of that's one time frame in your evening, in your weekend, with your spouse, with somebody that you like. And so it really depends on where are you, what's the mindset, what's the mood. So I think about my spirits as how I use them. So for instance, the grappa is myself having one little drink, maybe after dinner, maybe I'm doing some work, maybe I'm just relaxing, or maybe I can share it with that one person. So it's for a deeper conversation. The limoncello, I always think about the table with more friends. So it's a convivial, fun time. The spritzer, it's that one cocktail that you have with a close group of friends and you have a good time and you're just relaxing. So that's exactly what you said. So these cocktails, these spirits are meant for specific moments and circumstances. I don't ever foresee my spirits going, in a rave party, or going into, having, these disco clubs, where where of course lots of spirits are consumed. I don't think they're for that. I think they're for the small to medium gatherings. When you're winding down, you want to have, you're just having a good conversation or a good group of friends over, and whether it's a serious conversation or more like a party type of time, you might go with one versus the other. But that's exactly how they are conceived. That they stem from that type of thought process rather than necessarily the flavor component itself. If that makes sense.
I don't know, Alessandro. I think Miami as a market would love these, and you might find yourself in those parties, in those raves, because like people want to hold something that's fashionable, and they're going Originals and Co. Yeah, I love that. Grab a couple of these cans, bring them to their table, and it creates those moments that you speak about. Where can people find all of these expressions, and how can they get their hands on them?
Well, so the easiest solution is we have an online direct to consumer option. So anybody that goes to originalsimports.com, they can buy and have everything shipped in most states. So that's there, and then we have a few other states where we're mainly present at the local level, like in stores and the like. But yeah, online, originalsimports.com. That's where to go.
And these the spritzers that you make, are they sold in 4-packs? How do they come prepared?
They come in 4-packs. Yes.
Okay.
So,
and what was the other flavor? Because I think there's one more.
Well, we have a new flavor coming. We actually haven't released that yet, but we have another flavor coming, and I'm working on the sampling right now. I think we can share it. There's nothing wrong with it.
I love getting scoops on the podcast.
Yeah. No, so it's going to be a similar cocktail, so a spritzer, bright, sparkling, and the main flavor will be lemon. Because again, I love lemon, and I don't think people get lemon right. I think there is in the US there is this a little bit of confusion between lemon and citric acid, and people feel like the two are alike. To me, the two are not alike. There is a little bit of a gap in between, quite a bit actually. But so it's going to be a lemon spritzer with a hint of bourbon.
With a hint of what?
Bourbon. Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah, so lemon and bourbon go very well together. I mean, this is something we have tried over and over, and people are always like, what? And it's a cocktail we've been making for quite some time with our limoncello. So it will be a bright, refreshing lemon flavor spritzer, but it will have just a hint in the background of bourbon, which will give it that a little bit of added aroma. And so that will make it different than your traditional lemon cocktail, where it's either acidic or too sweet. The bourbon will add a little bit of flavor, so we can pull back on the sweetness a little bit. And at the same time, it won't necessarily have all that acidity. So it will be like this beautiful lemon with just like a background of bourbon. And it will be great. It's not going to be, all heavy. It's going to be just very light and refreshing.
Alessandro, is there anything we haven't spoken about on the podcast? Anything you want the listeners to know more about you or Originals Imports?
Well, I would just say that if you like a small craft liqueur, then definitely give us a try. I don't think anybody has ever been disappointed with us. And I appreciate, all the time and all the questions, but I think you covered, pretty much everything.
I am grateful for your time today. I'm grateful you took off that mask to go this direction in your life, to bring these wonderful spirits and these cocktails to the market and allow people to see you and what you have the ability to connect the world with. Your children should be very proud of their father, because you're an example of, hey, look, you've got a vision, you've got an idea, and you're also taking some of your history, culture, and heritage and allowing people to share with that. Thank you for being a friend of Fermented Adventure. We can't wait to try that bourbon lemon cocktail when it comes out, and all the great things that you're producing. These are wonderful spirits, wonderful liqueurs. And what's the website so people can find it if they want to order these?
Originalsimports.com.
Originalsimports.com. I wish we were like Guy Fieri and Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, where we could crash your website. Not actually a goal, but it happens. But yeah, go to the website, see what they have going on, some cocktail ideas for liqueurs and spirits. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Rich.
Cheers.
Bye.